When you're 33 years old, you are homeless, you're penniless, don't have a dollar to your name.
Fucking bleeding everywhere and shooting up and picking my face and pulling my hair out. That's how bad I was.
You have that moment of clarity. You've got blood on your hands and you realize that this is not where I want to be.
When my mom said she had cancer, I fucking cried and I cried and I cried. And I was like, take care of your fucking mom. And I couldn't.
How much money did your business do this last year?
35 million.
What was kind of like that first step to kind of integrating back into the real world?
I made a pact with God that I was going to be rich. I went and I worked my fucking dick into the dirt day and night.
It seems like you've had this ability to be able to connect with some of the top people in the world.
It's so simple. That's all it is.
What is your best advice to the younger generation? What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the School of Hard Knocks podcast. I'm James. I'm here with Jack and Josh, and we've got an incredible guest for you guys today out of Austin, Texas. We're here with Khalil Rafati, and boy, does he have an amazing story for you guys. Khalil went from being homeless, addicted to, copious amounts of drugs, to living on the streets, to ultimately, doing a complete 180 to building a multi-million-dollar health and wellness empire and becoming the ultimate best version of yourself. And where I want to start things today, Khalil, is I want to go back to when you're 33 years old, about 20 years ago or so.
Yep.
You are homeless, you're penniless, don't have a dollar to your name. What was that exact moment when you realized, I am not going to die a drug addict?
There was a couple moments mixed together, but one in particular, I was on Skid Row and I was sort of shuffling down the street, one flip-flop working, one flip-flop broken, and coming down off of a heavy night of shooting heroin and smoking crack. And it just hit me. I was literally like shuffling down the street, like trying to make it work with the flip-flop that was falling off. And also back then you could get arrested for track marks. So I remember I had on this long, like horrible, like mock turtleneck, and it was like 107 degrees outside. It was July.
And you're in Los Angeles?
I'm in Los Angeles, yeah. And the sun's just starting to beat down on me, and I'm shuffling along, and the fucking crazy noise in my head and whatever. I was pretty mentally ill at the time as well. At the time, probably still am to some degree. But I literally stopped and like it all hit me. There was this like moment of clarity where I like looked down at the broken flip-flop. My feet were so dirty. My hands filthy, blood on them from all this shit. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? And I'm like looking around, I'm like, what the fuck? Like basically like in my head, like what the fuck happened? Like, I was a fuck up and I was a loser. I was many, many things, but like, I wasn't like this. You know what I mean? Like I always kind of had an apartment or like had a job or like did something. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like I literally became one of those people that I used to drive past, like one of those fucking crazy people on the streets that you see muttering to themselves. Like that was me. And it fucking freaked me out so bad. It was like this moment of clarity. I'm like, oh my God. What happened? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. And at that point, that's when I reached out to that woman, Penny, that I used to shack up with from time to time for money and drugs. And because she had promised me that she could connect me with this guy named Bob Forrest and that he could put me into a rehab for free, which I thought was bullshit, but it wasn't. And that was that moment. That was the moment of clarity.
Yeah. What initially had led to you, falling to the streets? Was it the environment that you surrounded yourself with, or because you're right, we see the people that we drive past, a lot of people neglect them. They don't treat them the right way. But initially for you, what was that moment in your life that had kind of led to that, progression and kind of falling into that?
I mean, I was always an addict. So I was like smoking weed with the older kids when I was a little boy. I hate to say 8, 9, 10 years old, like taking puffs off joints because I had no parental supervision. And my dad was gone by that time. My dad left when I was like 6 or 7 and my mom was working nights. So she was passed out on sleeping pills during the day. And in rural Ohio in the 70s, like I shouldn't say people didn't give a fuck about their kids, but it was a different time. There were no helicopter parents in the 70s. Like you just sort of like fended for yourself. And I ran with the older kids and the kind of the bad kids because I wanted attention and I didn't really fit in anywhere. Yeah, I started fucking around then, and then progressively, it just gets worse. I mean, you start out like trying to fit in, taking puffs off joints, and then the next thing you know, maybe you're doing a bump or something, and then it escalates, and then the next thing, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it with your friends. It's like you see like a totally normal, well-adjusted kid or a really totally fucked up, not adjusted kid, either or. Like you can go from hero to zero pretty fucking quick. I didn't go from I was never a hero, but I went to zero slowly. I was a pussy. I was scared of hard drugs at first. It wasn't until my 20s that I started getting into, cocaine, and heroin, and then eventually crack, and then eventually mixing heroin and crack together and shooting it up. But I think part of it was all the dysfunction, all the neglect, all the abuse from my childhood. A lot of it was just always feeling like I was a piece of shit and I didn't fit in. And then some sort of like hunger. There was like a fucking hunger. And I just wanted more. Like I didn't want to party. Like I didn't want to go to parties. Like I wanted oblivion. I was seeking oblivion, which is so funny because it's the complete opposite now. It is a 180, but the desire and the drive is not really any different. So in a sense, as I'm saying this out loud to you, it's really like addiction is like a superpower if you can switch the ingredients. I'm still very much an addict.
So you don't think it's a bad thing to necessarily have an addictive personality if it is catered in the right direction to what you're doing?
I think it's a superpower. I think if you have an addictive personality, and I like as a kid, like, God, man, everything, shoplifting, and we had magazines back then. We didn't have the internet, but like magazines and porno mags and vandalism and anything. Like I was just an addict for anything. No, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a great thing if you can realize that all power, all energy comes from one source, and that one source is God. And so if you take that one source of energy and you put it towards good, then good is going to come. Listen, nobody works harder than a crackhead. Nobody. You think the guys on Wall Street work harder than a crackhead? No fucking chance in hell. They're out there fucking stealing shit, fucking sucking dicks. They're, walking 18 miles to get $10 to go back to the one guy. Like I did it. Like I was a crackhead. No one works harder than a fucking crackhead.
They're going to find it some way or another.
No matter what. That drive of the crackhead, that drive of the tweaker, that drive of the fucking junkie, that is the desire to connect with God. It's the desire to create. It's the desire to get in line with the energy. Everything is energy. And then there's the darkness, the absence of energy, death and the devil and bad and whatever, and darkness. And then there's the light. There's like, I don't know. I don't want to make it like too philosophical, but like, I really feel like if anybody is struggling like with pornography or, internet gambling or any of those things, you can switch the ingredients. You can start running, you can start working out, you can start building businesses, you can start getting healthier and healthier and healthy. Like my girlfriend's mom, I hadn't seen her in, she looked amazing. It was really weird because I'm like looking at her mom, I'm like, wow, she's hot.
Hey,
like
that's the telltale sign.
That means my girlfriend's gonna be hot.
Yeah,
and she's that age. But she said, she goes, what have you been doing lately? Which people don't normally ask me. I mean, I don't hang out with a lot of people, but I was like, what have I been doing lately? Like, I don't know, like just getting healthier and healthier and working out more and more and making more money and like building more things. She's like, oh, like, sorry, I'm boring. Like, but I like being boring. I don't want to, it was a really interesting moment of self-introspection. So Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're an addict, I think the cards are in your favor. I think you've got a good hand, but you just got to know how to play that hand.
So I'm curious, right? You have that moment of clarity. You've got blood on your hands.
Yeah.
And you realize that this is not where I want to be.
Yep.
So what were those next steps to getting clean and getting your life right?
Surrender. I mean, surrender is we've been taught, or I was taught as a young man, I don't know about you guys, but I was taught that surrendering is terrible. Never surrender, whatever. There was shirts that tap out was like a big thing with the UFC, like never surrender. Surrendering is joining the winning team, right? If someone is about to snap your fucking arm, yes, you should tap. You should surrender, right? You should join the winning team. I surrendered and I asked for help. And I got on my knees and I asked God for help. And that was really, so there was the moment of clarity that you asked about, but it was like 3 days into that treatment center, that Musicians Assistance Program. That was the charity. It was called MAPS, Musicians Assistance Program. I think it's called Music Cares now. But 3 days into my stay at that rehab, I just completely fucking fell apart. And I'm like, fuck, man, I'm 33. I have no money. There's no family. There's nobody's going to save me. You know, it's not like, hey, dad, can you, like, there was none of that shit. I came to the realization that not only was I completely fucked, my teeth were falling out of my head. By that point, I'd put a little bit of weight on, but by a little bit of weight, I mean, probably 120 pounds instead of 109 pounds when I first came in, and still had sores all over my body. My feet didn't turn pink again for months just because they were just filthy from walking around the streets. And I just like looked at myself. I'm like, man, I'm a fucking piece of shit. And I did this. Like, I can tell you really sad stories about what happened to me as a child, what adults did to me as a child, and it's disgusting. But that's not happening at 33 years old, right? What happened to me was terrible and it was tragic. The neglect was actually worse than the sexual abuse, but none of that was happening anymore. This is 3 fucking decades later, and I'm still using that as an excuse? No. I'm a fucking grown-ass man, and this is the shit existence that I have created for myself. I had nothing. I didn't have to, but I chose to drop to my knees with all of my being and beg God. I begged God. And my exact words were, God, please take this hell away from me. I don't know why I chose those words. It's not very fancy, or it doesn't sound like really cool, but God, please take and I was sobbing when I said it. God, please take this hell away from me.
Why did you call on to God? Did you have like a religious upbringing, or like how did you know? And
my mom was born a Jew. My dad was born a Muslim. My dad was an atheist. My mom got raised Catholic during the war. She got taken in by these 2 sisters. Religion was really fucking confusing for me, but I always knew that something created all of this and it wasn't me. That there was some, not necessarily, an old man with a beard in the sky that was pointing his finger at me, but I always knew that something created me. I always sensed that something created me. I always felt that there was that. I just felt like that didn't give a shit about me. So I believed that there was a God. I just didn't think that God cared about me, that I was just a piece of shit. Because I was told, my dad told me I was a piece of shit. You know, like when you're a superhero, your parents are like superheroes when you're a fucking kid. And like if your dad's beating on you and telling you that you're a piece of shit, you think you're a piece of shit. And he's beating on your mom and you can't protect her, or you're a little boy and he's throwing you across the room. You feel helpless. You feel like a piece of shit. So I felt like a piece of shit, and God didn't care about me. But I got on my knees and asked God for help, because who else was I going to ask? I mean, there was no one else. I asked God for help. And I will tell you, within an instant, because I was so serious, I was so sincere, within an instant, I felt like a levity to my being. There was this like, yeah, I'm here, and yes, I will take this hell away from you if you really want to, if you really, are willing to change. And I was really willing to change because I was in so much pain. I wasn't willing to change because I was a good guy and I wanted to be virtuous. I was willing to change because I was a fucking like piece of shit slug, open sores, sharing needles with people with AIDS. Like you can't really get much lower. I was a real piece of shit. I did it all to myself. So a lot of people have bad childhoods. A lot of people, get molested or like racism, or they're born black in the rural South or whatever. Like, yeah, it was a real harsh realization in that moment that like, wow, I'm a piece of shit and I did this to myself. This has nothing to do with my mom and dad. This has nothing to do with anybody. So I'm just going to reach to that God that I know is there, that doesn't care about me. But in that moment there was like, yes, I do care about you. And like, I got you. There was like, but it wasn't like a burning bush. It wasn't like my cravings went away. It wasn't like the withdrawal went away. The fucking cravings and the withdrawal were like a freight train coming after me. But there was that spark. There was that little spark of knowing as I was on my knees, God, please, can you see it? There was that spark. And I'm like, okay. And like when dudes make fires in the wild, I don't know how to do it, but you like rub shit together and then you get this, you like blow on it and then it starts going. That's what I did with that spark. I'm like, oh God, oh, you do care about me. Okay. Okay. All right. Like, what do I need to do here? Like, how can I I need your help. I need your love. I need you to take care of me because I can't live like this. Like this existence sucks. Like God, please, like, what do I do? What do I do? And it's interesting because mother was born a Jew, dad born a Muslim. I was actually raised Catholic as well. My mother was raised Catholic, but like, set aside all the religion. There's one God. There's only one God, right? I don't fucking care what anybody says. And maybe somebody's going to get mad at me for saying that, but there's one God. One God created all this. So my prayers were literally just straight up like, God, I'm scared. God, can you be with me now? God, can you be with me now? God, can you be with me? God, please be with me now. God, can you please hold my hand? Can you please hold my hand? Like all the fucking time. I just kept talking to God, kept talking to God, kept talking to God. Well, interestingly enough, that stopped all of the negative self-talk that had been going on for many, many years inside my head, right? That I was a piece of shit, that I was bad, that I was worthless, that, whatever. And it also made me feel a power that was greater than me. And so I just kept grabbing onto that little spark and flame and fanned it, and then it started going, and then I got the fucking wood and the sticks and, eventually the logs, and now I got a fucking bonfire. Now I'm fucking rich and happy, and life is amazing.
I want to talk about how you built that bonfire. So
Great.
you're getting clean from living on the streets.
Yep.
You're doing drugs. Did you ever have that temptation to go back, or was it very clear it was like, I'm moving on from this? And where did you get that initial drive to start what was kind of like that first step to kind of integrating back into the real world?
Cravings were really, really bad. I went to the 12-step groups every fucking day, usually twice a day. They were that was shelter, like if there's a really bad storm outside and lightning and wind and shit's falling and whatever, and you need shelter, the 12-step programs are the best shelter there is. Yeah, I don't go. I'm not like a 12-step person anymore, but in the beginning, 12 steps saved my life. And I sought shelter within the 12-step program. And it was amazing. The first sort of foray into becoming self-sufficient by my own contributions, I was fucking broke and I couldn't feed myself. So they said, well, then you got to fucking raise your hand and get honest. I'm like, the ability to be embarrassed in front of your peers, even if you're at a 12-step meeting, that's heavy. People will die. People would rather die than be embarrassed. That's why fear of public speaking is so intense, because people are so scared to be embarrassed. Isn't that crazy?
It's wild.
If you're worried about the fear of failure, wait till you get the bill of regret.
Yeah. Or as what's that little MMA fighter? The kid's so cute and he's such a great fighter.
Hezbollah?
No, blonde hair kid. I always sat next to him when I would go to the UFC fights with Anthony Kiedis. I'll think of it. But anyway, we were talking and he was telling me about his training and I'm like, that's fucking crazy. I'm like, I can't believe every day. And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know what's harder than that? And I'm like, what? He goes, losing. I'm like, damn. So anyway, I raised my hand and I said, I need work. I need help. And this guy named Daryl Cobb came up to me after the meeting and he said, do you really want to work? Two people, a gay couple named Chris and Glenn came up and offered me to clean their apartment and they gave me their number and I took it. And a guy named Daryl Cobb. And Daryl was the first work I did. It was the next morning. He said, meet me at Starbucks at 7 a.m. I was there at like 6:30. Got my fucking Starbucks. We drove up into Bel Air. He took out a pickaxe, a shovel, some equipment. He's like, you see that tree stump right there? We know we need to remove that and it's dead and rotten. I'll come back around noon. I'll scoop you up and, we'll go do something else. I'm like, okay. He's like, you know how to do it? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, here, let me show you. And he grabs the fucking pickaxe and he like hacks at this really dead, rotten tree stump and a couple of times. And he goes, just like that. He set it down. He goes, I'll come back and scoop you up around lunch. I'm like, okay, cool. He drives off and put the gloves on and grab the pickaxe and just swing it as hard as I can. And I'll never forget, bam, when it hit. It was like, oh, and like every part of my body hurt so bad. And I dropped the fucking pickaxe and I was like, ow, 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 ow. I hadn't done physical work in years. And the shock of like that hitting like that. And he forgot to like, I don't know, leave me cigarettes or whatever the fuck reason he was coming around the corner again and he saw that and I didn't know he was coming around the corner and I burst into tears and was like so embarrassed that I couldn't do something so basic. And he just fucking came over and, hey man, you're all right. It's cool, man. I'm going to have you put some primer on the walls over there instead. I think that's more up your alley. And he went in the van and got a pan and some paint and a roller. And I primed the walls and just like smoked cigarettes and cried the rest of the day. But I worked. And at the end of the day, he dropped me back off at that Starbucks on Cross Creek Road. And I got out and he goes, here you go, man. And he handed me $100 bill. And when you're homeless and you're panhandling, you ain't seen any hundreds. It had been a while since I'd seen 100. And he handed me that $100 bill. And there was something about like, I fucking worked. I worked all day. I sweated and I worked. And I had that $100 bill. And I was so proud of myself. For the first time in so many years, I was proud of myself. And I understood you work and you get paid. And it cleanses your mind in the process, right? And I went over to Malibu Kitchen and I ordered a toasted seeded baguette with mustard and tuna and Swiss with everything. And I got that sandwich and I went outside and I was so hungry and the smell of that sandwich. And I remember biting carefully because my teeth were still all like falling out of my head at that time. And this was like broken in half and this was falling out. I remember biting into that sandwich, that taste of that sandwich, and I burst into tears and I started crying. And it was like tears of joy. Like finally, I am at the very base bottom level of being a man. I worked, I earned, I'm feeding myself. Basic, ground level. That was the beginning. That was that $100 bill, that was the beginning.
So you were doing a couple different, various ventures to kind of earn money, right?
Yeah.
I know that you were walking dogs, you were doing paintings sort of things. Let's talk about, starting to make some money. You eventually started a whole bunch of different businesses.
I did.
Obviously before, the big hit, SunLife Organics. Talk to us about some of those businesses that you started. I know you started a yoga studio. Can you kind of take us through some of those and what all had happened?
So, this is the part that nobody wants to hear because everybody wants to think that like I put down the needle in the crack pipe and I picked up a fork and I started eating and then I just walked, tripped over a rock and then $1 million appeared. Like people still really want to believe in luck. They don't want to hear about grinding it out. Yes, I worked many, many, many jobs. I was a Manny for Willie and Harry, Billy Bob Thornton's sons. Willie just reached out to me. We're going to actually reconnect after I haven't seen him in 20 fucking years. His father is shooting Badlands right outside of Dallas. So next year when they're filming, I'm actually going to go and we're going to reunite. But I was a Manny for them. I taught them how to boogie board and I cleaned up dog shit. They paid me incredibly well, $40 an hour, which was fucking huge money for me. I was working at 2 rehabs at the same time. I was doing the overnight shift and, a little bit embarrassed to say that I would pretty much sleep sitting up, but I worked the night shift at one rehab and then I worked went and walked dogs in the morning and then went to the other rehab. I basically just worked nonstop. I worked around the clock. I do have to back up for a second though, because there was another layer of that hunger that we're talking about, that thing that I had. I was 34. I was about 8 months clean and sober, and my mom got cancer. And my mom called me. And I didn't have a great relationship with my mom anyway, but still my mom, and I couldn't help her. Not only could I not help her, I didn't even have the money to go visit her. So that was also 8 months into my off the fucking shit sobriety, whatever you want to call it. That was another pivotal moment for me. When my mom said she had cancer and I was sitting with some people and, they're like, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It wasn't fine. I was fucking still homeless. I'm living on some guy's property in his guest house, which was awesome. Overlooked the ocean, didn't have electricity. But it had running water and I could stay there and I had candles and I felt like I was bohemian, reading fucking books and by candlelight. I went back to that guest house that night and I fucking cried and I cried and I cried and I was like, here you are, you're 8 months sober. Now I'm 34. I was 33 when I got clean. I'm 34. I'm 34 years old. You fucking piece of shit and your mother's sick and you can't help her. You're a piece of shit. You're a fucking loser. The one thing that a man should always make sure he does, regardless of what his mother's actions were, right? My mom wasn't a great mom, clearly. Doesn't fucking matter. She's my mom. I'm a man. Take care of your fucking mom. And I couldn't. And it crushed me. And I cried and I cried and I cried and I was punching myself in my legs over and over again. I just kept punching myself in the legs. You fucking piece of shit. You fucking loser. You're never going to be like this again. You're never going to be broke again. You're never going to be broke again. I'm going to be fucking rich. I'm going to be fucking rich. I just kept punching myself in the legs. I'm going to be fucking rich. I'm yelling at God. I'm going to be rich. I need fucking help. I need work. I need fucking work. I'll do anything. I don't fucking care. I'm never going to feel like this again. I'm never going to feel like this again. I'm going to be rich. I made a vow with God. I made a pact with God that I was going to be rich. And for the rest of my life, as long as I live, any woman that I have the pleasure of being in the presence of, whether it's a friend, whether it's a stranger, or whether it's a lover, or whether it's a girlfriend or a wife, I take care of that woman. That's what a fucking man is supposed to do. You take care of that woman. And if your mother is still alive, you take care of your mom. If your mom's got some dough, okay, great. Maybe your dad's still alive. Maybe he's taking care of her, right? Okay, but call her every day and just tell her you love her. And she's probably going to push your buttons. She's probably going to complain because that's what fucking moms do. It doesn't matter. Just listen to her and tell her you love her. And I got a lot of shit from people saying on your thing, they were like, what about the dads, man? What about taking care of your dad? Listen, my fucking dad was horrible. My dad died less than a year ago. I didn't shed a tear. I love him. I want nothing but the best for him in whatever the fuck happens after we take our final breath here. I hope he's going to heaven. I don't know. That's between him and God. But my dad was a terrible dad. But my dad squirted his load in my mom and that was it, right? My mom then created me within her belly. As my mother grew me in her belly, her bones got brittle. The minerals left her hair, left her bones, right? Her skin, her collagen, like she sacrificed her own body to create me. And I'm inside of there shitting and pissing and causing all kinds of fucking havoc. And my mother's body is being consumed by me. My mother gave of herself. And then when I came forth from her womb, she held me and she fed me. And as she fed me, her body deteriorated more. Her bones deteriorated more. Her hair fell out. She fed me from her bosom, right? I shit and pissed all over her and she cleaned me. Like, that's what our moms do. Is there anything more sacred? Is there anything more godly than a woman's ability to create that? And I know Tim Cook wants me to believe that a man can have a baby too, but I'm not going to go down that alley. Is there anything more sacred than a woman creating that life within herself and then bringing that life forward? And so that was my mom. My mom did that for me. And as a 34-year-old man, I didn't have money to fucking send her so she didn't have to go to work while she's going through fucking cancer treatment. You fucking loser piece of shit. So you bet your ass I went and I worked my fucking dick into the dirt day and night. 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, non-fucking stop.
You get that why. You get that ultimate motivation of like, look, I need to make it because the one woman I love more than anything, I can't provide for.
Mm-hmm.
What was like, you know that you can work really hard and you can still work at McDonald's and you can't ultimately provide that financial freedom for yourself, but also that ability to provide for others. So when was that realization that like, hey, doing these one-off jobs isn't going to be enough to build a future and actually provide for others? What was that initial step into entrepreneurship like?
It was always evolving, right? If you have the hunger and you have the desire and you have the faith in God and you put your faith in God and you just start walking forward one foot in front of the other and you start becoming 1% better every day. I love the example of minimum wage because I got to tell you, I've employed people and paid them minimum wage for 14 years now and slowly gave them raises, but still never really gave them giant corporate salaries because that's not the type of business we have. We make fucking smoothies and you know, people that come to work in a smoothie shop are kids. That's just the way it goes. Having said that, I have a handful of people who were making very modest money working at my company as we grew it. But when I yelled at them and I said, stop fucking buying Lululemon pants and start buying Lululemon stock. You're spending fucking, at the time, you're spending $80 on those fucking pants. How many do you need? Just buy the stock. It's $35. Like, this is a literal conversation I had with hundreds of people. Most didn't listen, but some did. Some did. And I will tell you, there's one girl in particular who bought all the fucking stocks that I was yelling at her to buy. And she stopped buying shit that she didn't need. Because the thing is, when you're young, you buy a bunch of shit, you buy a bunch of fancy shit, like my fucking stupid fancy pants and my fancy shoes and my fancy man purse and my fancy watch. This is all just a defense mechanism to put on the solve of insecurity and, oh, I'm 5'7" and I wish I was 6'1" and, you know, I wish I had beautiful eyes like yours or whatever. Like, all this stuff is great. You know, I'm not bashing it, but I can afford it. The problem is when I was a kid, I was buying it on credit, right? Which is what most people do, buying shit that they can't afford or spending every paycheck as soon as it came in. And there's a handful of employees, and this one girl in particular, who she did exactly what the fuck I said to do. In fact, I wish I would have taken my own fucking advice. Well, I did take my own advice, but we had an opportunity to get friends and family shares of Square because Jack Dorsey was a customer and he was coming into the Point Doom location and he just really liked SunLife. And he was like, hey, I started this new company, you know, super sweet, mellow guys. Like, if any of your employees would like to, you know, purchase some friends and family shares at $10, I'm happy to provide that for them. I'm like, what a fucking legend. Yeah, of course. I did it. My girlfriend did it. A couple other people did it, but this one particular girl did it. So my dumbass sold when it went to $30. I thought I was a genius, right? I always do that shit. I triple my money. Fuck, I'm going to sell. I always do that shit. She didn't sell. She held on to all those stocks. She held on to the Shopify, the Amazon, the Nvidia, the Alibaba, it was pretty obvious where things were going 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 14 years ago. This was 12 years ago. It was pretty obvious where things were going, right? Did I know that Lululemon was going to be $400 instead of being $30? No, I didn't. Did I know that NVIDIA would be one of my exes? We bought her $50,000 worth of NVIDIA in 2018, and we did the math. I think and she never sells. She's super frugal, Jewish, smart girl. She never sells. She won't sell for another 20 years. Her $50,000 in NVIDIA is now worth $7.5 million. So to your point, working minimum wage, it doesn't matter. If you're living at home and you're working minimum wage, you have to triple what you're making because you don't have expenses. If you're buying crypto, if you're buying stocks, if you're buying whatever type of assets you can buy that are going to appreciate. So this particular girl, she never sold her, well, I shouldn't say never. She sold her Square stock when it hit 300. Remember, she bought it at $10 and she fucking went and rented a motorbike and for 90 days drove across Southeast Asia on a motorbike. It was her fantasy since she was a child. I have no idea. It's a weird fantasy. But she did that, and then she started a little Airbnb in the south of France. And she's living this incredible fucking life now. When I met her, she was managing a burger place and smoking and drinking and unhappy and not in the best of shape. I ran into her at Expo West. Holy fucking shit. She's now in her late 30s, I believe, mid to late 30s. Insane body. We used to do Tough Mudders and Spartan races together. Insane body, hot boyfriend, fucking tons of money in the bank, shooting like some pilot for some television show. And I'm just like, yeah, it doesn't fucking matter. Minimum wage or not, if you have the desire, if you're willing to create the side hustle, if you're willing to be embarrassed in front of your peers, if you're willing to take the chances, you can fucking do anything.
So you started a couple businesses,
Yes.
but ultimately selling these smoothies made you a multimillionaire.
Yes.
It's safe to say that. How much money did your business do this last year?
Business last year, I think, did 26 million. And like I said on our interview, we're on track this year, I think 34, 35 million.
How did you get the money to finance that first location? Can you tell us the story of how you opened up your first? Because you have how many locations now?
We're opening our 20th next month.
20 locations.
Yeah.
Go back to that first location to tell us the story.
It was, if you have the desire and you have the faith in God and you're willing to do the work, it's going to happen. It's just, it just does. It doesn't make any fucking sense that a high school dropout, convicted felon, dummy with no skills and no talent to live the way that I'm living now. But I put my faith in God and I did the footwork. And I had a bunch of people that saw me working at the two different rehabs, saw me working as a manny, teaching the kids how to boogie board, saw me running errands for Cindy Landon, who was the Little House on the Prairie guy. That was his widow. She was paying me a shitload of money to run errands for her. And people saw me working my ass off. So when I started talking about opening up a juice bar, a lot of people were like, "Yeah, man, if you ever want to start a business or whatever, like I'll back you." Because they saw how hard I worked, like a maniac, like a raccoon. I was just like constantly just going and going. And a bunch of people said they were going to give me money. So I was like, "Oh, cool." Fucking dumbass me. I'm like, "Yeah, they're going to give me money." I went out and like found a location and I snuck into Expo West. I think this is like 16, 17 years ago. I snuck into Expo West because you have to have badges. And I like got some discarded badge and I like snuck in, found all the purveyors, like came up with some recipes. I was already tinkering around in my kitchen. And then I went to those people and they all fucking had amnesia. They're like, "Well, I don't know. Now talk to my business manager." And everybody talks about how they're going to give you money for your startup. And then when it comes time to actually get the money, those people are all going to disappear. Hey, they're all going to fucking ghost you.
When it's time for the client to pay the invoice, they're in the middle of Alaska.
Right? It's crazy, right? They get amnesia. They're in Alaska. So,
what are you talking about?
Someone just died.
Yeah, my goat got sick. That was actually Yeah. The general contractor of the first SunLife Organics who didn't show up for a week straight said because his goat got sick. I literally called him and said, I will fucking drive down there and I will fucking kill the goat in front of you if you don't get up here and finish this fucking store. And he did. And 11 months later, we opened. So I kept knocking on doors. And ultimately what it came down to, I had to have enough skin in the game for somebody to take me seriously. So all those people that promised me they were going to invest, they all fucking ghosted me and disappeared. And I know this isn't going to surprise you guys because you're in this world, but ultimately what ended up happening, so that was failure, about 2 years of failure. And I think going into the third year, the economy really took a shit. I mean, we're talking 2010. 2010, the sky was falling. Leases everywhere for lease. Everybody's terrified. Everybody thought the whole fucking world was going to end. And I was helping this guy that was a poker player, former crack addict, get and stay clean and sober. And we were coming up on our 1-year contract. I had a 1-year contract with them where I was basically like, I was a sober companion. I had Riviera Recovery, the business. And I would never take money from clients just because I was told it was unethical, whether it is or it isn't. I mean, it probably is. You shouldn't take money from people that you're helping. But he was at the very end of his thing. And he goes, why are you always talking about opening up a fucking juice bar? Why don't you just fucking do it? We're in his convertible Bentley, I think, convertible Rolls Royce. And I'm like, yeah, buddy, it's not that easy. I don't fucking have money like you. You know how many people told me they were going to give me money and then they did? And he's like, well, how much could it possibly fucking cost? And I'm like a couple $100,000. And he goes, that's a hand of poker. I'll give it to you. I'm like, went home, told my girlfriend. She's like, do you think he's serious? I'm like, he doesn't seem like he's not serious. I mean, those people are, pretty serious when they say shit like that. And she's like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, I think first of all, he would definitely not be the type of person that you would want to not pay back. Like if I was going to lose someone's money, it's not going to be this guy. This guy was a scary fucking like Jewish mobster type, bookie, whatever. And the next day we got a call from the bank. Hey, we need you to come in and sign. Mr. So-and-so wants you to come in and sign. He deposited $200,000 in the account. I couldn't fucking believe it. So that's where the initial money came from. And we fucking paid him back. You bet your ass we paid him back. I mean, I didn't pay myself. My girlfriend didn't pay herself. We worked day and night. We worked 7 days a week. We work 18 hours a day. We had cuts on every one of our fingers, 2 bandages plus gloves on both hands. And we just worked and worked and worked and worked and worked. We destroyed our relationship in the process. We wound up practically fucking hating each other. So that's another thing. What are you willing to sacrifice for your dreams? Right? What are you willing to let go of? What are you willing to set aside? Because if you want to catch those waves, you want to go to those parties, if you want to have that girlfriend, if you want to have that social life, you ain't getting that business. I let it all go. Everything.
It was a trade-off. Why smoothies? Why was the smoothie and juice bar? Why was that the win of the dream for you at the time?
And I just want to add on, was it originally SunLife Organics when you first started it?
No, it was a fucking horrible name. I don't want to say the name. It was so embarrassing. I was so convinced that I got the domain for this name. I was like, this is the best name ever. And thank God for my Orthodox Jewish landlord who got on top of his chair and screamed at me. And he's like, I'm not renting to you with that ridiculous name. Change the name and then you could have it. And I'm like, you don't have any tenants. You need me. And he's like, get out of my office. And I went home and I cried and I actually called a lawyer. I'm like, can a landlord not rent to you because of the name? And they're like, buddy, landlord could do whatever the fuck they want. They own the building. So find another name. Maharaji Organics. Yeah. Wow. Maharaji means great king of organics. And I loved the symbol of the crown. And it was a very masculine thing.
That was the original one?
That was the original one.
Did you ever tell him thank you?
Zan, but my landlord?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So we became so close. He loves me. He calls me a wandering Jew and a rainmaker.
You got to appreciate those people, though, because even though I'm not sure maybe how well you guys knew each other back in the day, and that's
I hated him.
Well, the one thing that all the three of us pride ourselves on is you can't be a yes man.
Yeah.
And you need those people in your circle. And sometimes those people come from outside of your circle to come along in your journey and tell you that, like, look, this idea that you have, it sucks.
Yeah. That's what he said. It broke my heart. And he was right. Yeah. And then what was it? Sorry, what was the...
Why smoothies? Why was smoothies the $1 million dream for you?
So go back to Ohio. I'm this fucking awkward, gangly, misshapen kid. I was very, very skinny. I had no athletic ability. I had a weird name. Everybody was named Steve and Paul and Jim and, you know, whatever. And my name was Khalil. Khalil. And they called me Cleo because they couldn't say Khalil or Khalil. They would just call me Cleo in Ohio. So I'm this weird fucking kid, weird name. I'm 10 years old. My skull was massive. I had this giant head and this little skinny body and this terrible like bowl haircut. And kids were mercilessly making fun of me, calling me Charlie Brown, calling me Pumpkinhead. And fuck, man, when you're a kid, that shit hurts. And so
Charlie Brown's crazy.
Yeah, it was brutal. And I think it was Rocky 2. It might have been Rocky 1, or maybe it was the two of them together. But when he was training and he was taking eggs and putting them in a glass and like making it, I couldn't do that, but we had a blender. We had one of those old timey glass blenders, and I would put the eggs in like with like milk or, you know, whatever. And then I would put a banana in, and that's how I was able to actually drink the raw eggs like Rocky did in the movie. And I would go and I would train, and it would feel so good to feel that power. And so I started making smoothies for myself when I was 10 years old, and I never stopped. And I've always had smoothies. I've always loved smoothies. When I first got clean and sober, I was about 7 months in, and I was crashing at this guy's house named Barron, and there was like mac and cheese in the fridge and Gatorade powder and really nothing, right? I was fucking starving. I was just like smoking and drinking instant coffee and going to 12-step meetings. And I called this guy Sean that I used to do drugs with that had also stopped, but this fucking weirdo just stopped. He didn't go to rehab. It wasn't really that dramatic. He just like stopped shooting up and like went back to being a yogi and a masseuse. And I called him up. He was one of the only people who would take my phone calls. And I was like, hey man, I'm fucking hungry. I don't have any money. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm okay. I'm not doing drugs anymore. I went to rehab, haven't done any drugs. He's like, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, I haven't done any drugs, because he got so concerned for me. The last time we were, I was going to say partying, but we were fucking shooting up together. He became so concerned for me that he called the cops on me. That's how bad I was. Just fucking bleeding everywhere and shooting up and picking my face and pulling my hair out. And he called the cops on me. They didn't catch me. I was really fast. I can run fast. I shouldn't say I don't have any skills. I can run fast. So I called Sean French, and he was living in Santa Monica, and he said, where are you? I said, I'm at the top of Topanga. I'm at Topanga Skyline. Can you help me? I'm hungry. Fuck, man. Tell a weirdo vegan hippie yoga teacher that you're hungry. Look out. He showed up with fucking avocados, macadamia nuts, greens powders, goji berries, and all these juices that he had made with his old-timey juicer. He was always into that shit and always trying to get me to do it. And he brought it all up there. I was so hungry that even though that stuff tasted gross, I just grabbed onto it. And when I fucking put it in my body, like I felt that like life force. Like in a sense, I got high, right? in a sense, I got high. Like that, all of a sudden my body turning alkaline from all of that raw, living, structured water from the juices that he made and the healthy fats from the avocado and the macadamia nuts and the greens powders. I started shitting like crazy over the next few days, and I started feeling all of this energy of the life force flowing through me. And it was fucking miraculous. It was like I was like a dried up, chain smoking, coffee drinking old man at 34. And I started putting that shit in my body, and like color started coming back to my face. And I started feeling vibrant and alive. And he would come up regularly and he would teach me yoga. He would massage me. We would laugh, but we would also cry because I would tell him like some of the shit that had happened to me on the streets. And I always hated men. I never trusted men because I got sexually abused by men when I was a child, and I sold myself to men on the streets to get money for drugs. So I didn't like men touching me, but he was safe, and I felt safe with him. And we would laugh, and he would massage me, and we would do yoga, and we would drink these smoothies and juices and whatever. And it made me feel so fucking good. And then it just snowballed, like, right? That was a little snowball at the top of the mountain. Then we met this girl named Jenna Bai who was really into Neem Karali Baba, I think was her guru. And she had a place in Santa Monica where she would make these smoothies, and we would go there and drink the smoothies. And then there was this fruitcake named Giuliano who like wore women's G-strings, but had this restaurant called Raw, and it was all this organic food, and we used to go there. And then there was this Raw Garage. It was like this illegal co-op in Venice called Rawsome, and we would go buy raw goat milk and raw colostrum. And the more I put this stuff in my body, I swear to God, I literally like just started to fill out, and I started to like feel powerful. And like, imagine how bad of a drug addict I was. So that same hunger, that same drive, that same passion turned into that hunger, drive, and passion for the fucking smoothies.
And you had a mentor, Fred Siegel, I believe his name was. He gave you a piece of advice that was never compromise on the integrity of your ingredients.
Yes.
And when you look at what you kind of did in your industry, in the smoothie, the acai bowl business, you kind of built a moat because you have your competitive advantage that you built this cult following with celebrities and just, successful people that are raving fans of the product and the company that you built. Talk to us a little bit about that journey, going around the world, going to Japan, going to Peru, going to these different places to find those ingredients.
Fun. So fucking fun.
And how important was that for you?
I mean, it was everything because it in the process of being completely fucking insane, I also made myself visible, right? Because like average juice bar does $400,000 a year. Our average SunLife does $1.6 million, right? I mean, we've got New York City will probably do 4 million out of a couple thousand square feet. I wasn't being a crafty businessman. I didn't realize I was building a moat around it, but like people open smoothie shops, juice bars to make money. I opened it because I was fucking obsessed, and I was already making money with Riviera Recovery, but I hated working at Riviera Recovery, and I hated it when people didn't do well. I personalized it because I'm so fucking codependent. I felt great when people did great, right? Pounded my chest when people did great. But when people fucking relapse, like I personalized it. This, like, it was a bunch of healthy people. Like, I was like obsessed. Like I want to get more. And then it wasn't just Fred Siegel. I mean, Rick Rubin, I would say arguably was an even bigger impact on me because Rick Rubin was coming in every day and he doesn't give a fuck about hurting your feelings. He doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about anything. I mean, he's very, he would walk in and be like, that's garbage. Take that off the shelf. You need to bring in this brand. You need this protein powder.
He literally is paid for his opinion.
Oh,
like his taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it hurt. To be fair, he would sometimes come in and go, what are you doing tonight? Come over and do sauna and cold tub with us. And I would go over there. I'm like, what? Rick Rubin? Like, he's the fucking most amazing producer on the planet, inviting me to his fucking house. Like, I don't want to get into a tub of ice, but I'll go do the sauna. And I go over to his house. This is literally, I think 13 years ago. Nobody was doing ice baths back then. I go over there and insane house, on the bluffs, and pull in and there's all these fancy cars there and the coolest house I'd ever seen. And this super sweet guy named Sanji opens the door and he's like, oh, right this way, right this way. And he's like, goes to hand me a bathing suit. And I'm like, oh, I brought my own. He's like, oh, okay. He hands me a towel, hands me a glass bottle of water, points me to this sauna. The sauna's inside the house, which I thought was genius. He had a giant barrel sauna, 10-person barrel sauna inside the house. And there's a stainless steel ice tub, which the Sanji guy's like dumping buckets of ice into it. And I go into the sauna, and there's Rick, sitting cross-legged, crisscross. You're not allowed to say Indian style anymore. Crisscross applesauce, whatever you guys say. And, with the beard and just like sitting there, and he has a wool hat on, which I thought was so funny. I wear them now as well, so you don't burn your ears and you don't burn the top of your head. But if you're going to go above 180 degrees, you really want a wool hat to protect your head. So he's wearing this wool hat, and it's really dark, and I go in there, and right away, hey, is your girlfriend an angel? And I look over and it's Owen Wilson, and I'm just like, what the fuck? What weird movie am I in right now? And I'm like, yeah, she's really great, trying to like make it seem normal that I'm in a sauna with Rick Rubin staring through my soul and fucking Owen Wilson asking me if my girlfriend's an angel. I'm like, yeah, she's an angel. He's like, no, really, she's an angel. I'm like, yeah, she's an angel, and it's so fucking hot. And Rick's like, put this on. So I put the wool hat on. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. It's so fucking hot in here. And then he goes, no, but I mean, really, is she an angel? And I'm like, yeah, totally an angel. And he goes, if I ever cast a movie, I want to put her in the movie as an angel. And I'm like trying to hold it together and not scream and freak out, because I'm from Ohio. I'm the weird guy that nobody wanted to hang out with, and all of a sudden this other voice starts talking about some quantum black holes and this and that. And like Rick chimes in, and I'm just sitting there like trying to make normal of what's happening here. And I know the voice, and I'm like, I don't want to stare and I don't want to be the weirdo. So I'm just like trying to pretend like I'm meditating or something, but the voice keeps going. And then all of a sudden I realize it's the fucking guy from Fight Club. It's Ed Norton.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. So he's like
crazy lineup.
He's talking about all these like philosophical things and quantum deep space and this and that. And then right when I'm kind of like, I have this tickly feeling like I'm going down a roller coaster, I'm like, I'm in this fucking sauna with Owen Wilson and Rick Rubin and Ed Norton. And then all of a sudden Rick goes, it's your turn. And I'm like, what? He goes, get in the ice tub. I'm like, okay, which I'm not getting in a fucking ice tub. But my body just stands up, and he goes, you're going to go completely underwater, and then you're going to come up, keep your hands out of the water. You're going to think that you're going to die. You're not going to die. You stay in as long as I say. I'm like, okay. And I just listen, like my ego, my soul, everything is screaming, crying, do not get in that ice tub, do not get in that ice tub. And my body just goes out. And I get in that ice tub. The first thing that happens, I don't know if you guys have ever done an ice tub.
Yeah.
It feels like you get punched in the nuts, right?
Yeah.
Like the cold hits your nuts, like you cannot believe. And then your feet feel like they're going to fucking break. They feel like they're going to break off, right? And so all of this is happening inside my head. I'm like, my feet are going to break off. My balls hurt. Oh my God. And then your heart starts to do that. Dun, 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 dun. I just went from a 200-degree sauna into a fucking ice tub. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to fucking die. I'm going to die. And then as I'm thinking I'm going to die, I'm remembering him going, you're going to think you're going to die, but you're not going to die. Stay in until I tell you. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, I am going to die. But I'm going to die outside of a sauna that I was just in with Ed Norton and Owen Wilson and Rick Rubin. And if you're going to die, it's probably not a bad way to die, right? And then all of a sudden he goes, okay, you're done. And I'm like, and I got out and I went back in the sauna, and I'm fucking shaking and higher than I've ever been in my life. I mean, the first time you do an ice tub for 3 minutes and you get out, you are fucking whacked out of your mind. And I was like shaking uncontrollably. We ended up doing 4 rounds of that. By time I got out of the ice tub, I was going down the hallway and trying to find my girlfriend's
What time
voice.
of day is this?
This is now going into the evening, and my girlfriend and his girlfriend are talking in the family room. And I go into the family room and I see the sofa, and I just go to lay down on the sofa, and I hear them chuckle, and I'm like, why are they chuckling? And I'm like, okay, whatever. And I'm just laying there on the sofa, and they're talking, and then they look over again, and then they start chuckling, and I'm fucking whacked out of my mind. I don't know if it like melted some fatty shit in my brain and drugs were released or whatever, but you know that feeling when you're just so high from an ice tub, 4 rounds of an ice tub. And like the third time they start laughing, I like go to sit up on the sofa, and I'm like, what's so funny? And they're like, why are you laying on the bookshelf? I'm like, what? And I realized that he had these like cut out all white bookshelves, but it looked to me like a sofa, and I had laid down on his bookshelf. So yeah, sorry. I got way off track there. That's my Rick Rubin story. But Rick Rubin, as well as a bunch of other people, would come in constantly suggesting you need to get this Manuka honey from New Zealand. You need to get grass-fed, grass-finished protein powder. What's his name? Ben Greenfield was coming in there. Jack Dorsey was coming in there. Anthony and Flea from the Chili Peppers were coming in there. The Hemsworths, all of them were coming in there, and everybody had a different idea about a different smoothie. And hey, let's take the bulletproof concept, which was really big at that time. The bulletproof coffee shit. Everybody was like going crazy over that. The Hemsworths were like, why don't we do like a bulletproof smoothie? It'll be like our smoothie. So we created a private smoothie for Chris and Liam and Luke, which was grass-fed, grass-finished butter, whey protein, some like fucking, seaweed or whatever. But it just started to evolve into something that was no longer mine. It was no longer my idea. And after about the 5th store, I realized I didn't create this. Creation created this, right? I was just the conduit. I was just like the connection to bring it from the ether into existence. As much as I would love to tell you I'm the creator of SunLife Organics, I'm not the creator of SunLife Organics. I purified the vessel and became willing to receive and ask God for help. And for whatever reason, I wound up with being blessed with this.
You've connected with a lot of amazing people, and just some of the people that you're mentioning that came into your store, but I don't think it was just because they love SunLife Organics that they wanted to necessarily connect with you. Like even before you had SunLife, like when you connected with the guy that gave you $200K, like you're making these connections to help you get on your feet. How did you find that essence of yourself to be able to connect with people so easily like that, especially these high level people? Like it seems like you've had this ability to be able to connect with some of the top people in the world. Where did you find that, and how can somebody obtain that sort of ability?
It happened by accident, and I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's so simple. It's authenticity. That's all it is. Like, most people are terrified of being themselves. Most people are terrified to offend people or to be embarrassed or to get ridiculed or whatever. If you wind up sucking some dicks for crack cocaine on the street as a convicted felon, as a high school dropout, as a homeless, mentally ill street urchin, and then you're lucky enough to have bottomed out and lived through it all, and then you have just enough brain cells left to realize that you need to seek a power greater than yourself, which I call God. Once that power of God comes, once that Christ consciousness heals you and takes over, you realize you really aren't shit. I'm not shit. Like, people get mad at me for calling myself a dummy sometimes, or people get mad at me for putting myself down. I'm not shit. I'm nothing. On my own, I wound up with a needle and a crack pipe. A needle in my arm and a crack pipe in my mouth. On my own. But with God, I could do anything. I'm unstoppable. And so it's about authenticity. I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you guys or tell your audience that I have some sort of cracked the code, or I can teach you how to manifest, or whatever. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I don't need you to buy my smoothies. I don't need you to buy my book. I don't really need anything, to be honest. I just have tapped into the real true source of power, and that power has turned my life into a fucking miracle. I mean, the home I'm building, I can't wait to, in fact, I'll have all you guys over when it's done. The home I'm building on Lake Austin right now, the business that I get to go to every day, the relationships, the friendships that I have, this is all the grace of God. This is all because of God. This is all the blessings of God. This is all because I got on my knees and asked God for help. This is not because I was smart or talented or skilled or went to a good school or any of that shit. I went through the hero's journey. And although I'm the furthest thing from a fucking hero, I got to, in a small way, become the hero in my own story. Going back to Ohio and buying my mom a house, sending my mom back to Poland after her not being back there for 39 years, buying my mom that jewelry, spoiling the shit out of my mom until the day she died. That gave me a sense of self-worth that nothing on the fucking planet. I see all these guys with the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and all the shit. And it's just like, man, my dick's not that big too, but like, I don't want to like advertise that my dick's not that big. You know, if you run out and go buy yourself a fucking Lamborghini and a Ferrari, you're pretty much telling everybody out there, you got a little pee-pee and you're really insecure. Unless you love cars, unless you're like obsessed with motor vehicles and that's your jam. But in general, like, a G-Wagon, as you pointed out in our interview, is the most that I could stomach in terms of trying to flex with the vehicle. It's pretty sad. A fucking car is a fucking car. I'm going to guess that if I had a $20,000 Subaru, I could have got here just as efficiently, just as comfortably, maybe even a little bit more comfortably than with my G-Wagon. And certainly it would have cost half as much gas. But at the end of the day, I'm still 5'7". I'm 55 years old. I'm still insecure and needy, and I want to be liked just like everybody else. So yeah, I got a fancy watch. I got a fancy car. I'm building a fancy house to soothe that. And also because if I don't love myself and I don't take care of myself, then nobody's going to love me and nobody's going to care about me.
One of the things that I've heard you say in the past is that you would rather shut the business down than stop using all organic and natural ingredients. And you've even traveled the world to find the best ingredients that you could possibly produce for your customers.
Yep.
And sticking to those core principles is what's made you, or one of the factors that's made you successful as an entrepreneur. Why is it so important for other people watching this right now to stay true to themselves and stay true to those core beliefs in their business? When they're scaling, they could look for cheaper alternatives that could help them scale maybe even more profitably.
Well, listen, if you want to make money, if that's your goal, then get shit ingredients. It's really easy to fool the consumer. Pay somebody to do paid ads, right? Get a branding expert to give you the best font and the best colors and the best whatever. Go out and buy a bunch of customers, sell a shitty product that's not actually good for you, that's not even actually what it represents itself to be. You can make fucking tens of millions. If that's what you want to do, if making money is the name of the game, there's never been a time in the history of our existence to make money quickly. I see people take basic pedestrian grade garbage products, pay tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not, one guy I know is paying millions. He's paying millions of dollars to acquire customers. And you know what? It works. The algorithms work. It's so easy to fool the consumer. If that's your goal, then go do that. But if you want to be happy and you want to have lasting sustainability, do you know how many so-called competitors came nipping at our heels over the last 14 years that are now out of business, bankrupt? I mean, I could rattle off a half a dozen names right off the top of my head of people. Some of them literally said to me, like, I'm going to go open up right across the street from you and, you know, and we're going to crush you. It's really easy to fool the consumer. There's a brand right now, and I don't want to mention even demographics of where they exist, but there's a brand right now that's done such an incredible job of coming up with an amazing name, amazing branding. They hired the best decorator to decorate their stores. They hired the best architects, the best commercial real estate brokers, and they're fucking crushing, right? They're a few years old. Will they be an American heritage brand 10 years from now? The answer is no. The answer is no. The lines are already beginning to fade. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. If you want to build a real, true, authentic American heritage brand, then you go to those lengths. And if your goal is to make money, then go fucking sell used cars. But if your goal is to help people transform their lives to become the highest versions of themselves, thank you for the compliment when we first started, to feel the life force flowing through them, to give them the energy to face their challenges, to give them the most fucking nutrition that you can put in a cup, right? 50 grams of fucking protein. Shout out to Noble Protein, beef-based, organ-based protein. If you want to do this, you got to focus on this. Our profit margins company-wide hover between 8 and 10%. I would be laughed out of any hedge fund. I would be laughed out of any business meeting. Guys are like, our margins are 45%. Our margins are 65%. Our margins are 85%. Yeah, and you're fucking poisoning people.
So you think a lot of your competitors are trying to poison people?
No, I think a lot of my competitors are trying to make money and that's their sole goal. And they're poisoning people in the process. They're giving them seed oils, they're giving them gluten, they're giving them non-organic shit sprayed with glyphosate or however you pronounce it, and they're fucking killing people slowly.
How common is that in the food and beverage world?
The most. It's the most. Fake healthy is thriving right now. Fake healthy is thriving. And I don't talk shit about other brands, so I'm not going to mention brands' names, but it's so easy to get the right packaging and the right colors and then nobody bothers to go like, what is the origin of that matcha? What is the, or people will put a sign up that say made with organic ingredients. Do you know if you say made with organic ingredients, you can put 99 ingredients in there that are not organic and put one in there that is organic and you can say made with organic ingredients. Yeah. The whole grass-fed beef thing is the biggest fucking scam ever. You need to find a ranch, you need to go there, you need to get to know the fucking farmer, you need to go to the slaughterhouse, you need to see how it's done. It's all a fucking scam. Greed has taken over. And it's fucking sad. It's sad.
You said it yourself that companies hire the best architects, hire the best marketers, and they're blowing up within a couple of years, but then they slowly fade away. Why is that happening? Is it because the consumer becomes aware of what they're actually being fed, or what happens there?
Yeah, it's experiential. You'll never go inside of SunLife Organics and have a product and not feel fucking amazing afterwards. And if you do, come right back up to the counter and tell us, and we're going to get you a gift card, or we're going to get you another smoothie or a bowl or whatever it is that we can do. My goal is to help people have the same transformation with their body that I had. And SunLife Organics customers are fucking ride or die. SunLife Organics customers come in every single day. Every single day. We are like, there's the Nobus out there, whatever, it's fancy, it's cool, they're in all the right spots and all that, and I'm envious of their financial success. But how often do you go to Nobu? 3 times a year? 5 times a year? Maybe 10 times a year? If you're super fucking rich and you live near one, maybe 20 times a year. How often do you go to SunLife Organics? Every fucking day, because you're getting the best of the best of the best. My goal was never to make money. That was never even a part of the dream and the plan. My goal was to start a fucking revolution. Everyone's talking about fucking maha right now. Everyone's talking about no seed oils. Everyone's talking about gluten-free. Motherfuckers, we were doing that 14 years ago. Everyone's talking about this fucking, colostrum this, colostrum that. We were putting colostrum in, I was putting colostrum in smoothies 22 years ago. I was selling smoothies with colostrum in them 22 years ago. We were selling Shilajit 14 years ago. We were using all the things that people are just starting to tap into. People are going to find something that they can make a shitload of money on, whether it's collagen or whether it's Shilajit or whether it's whatever, and they're going to want to build a brand so they can make a bunch of money. Again, if that's your goal, fucking God bless you, go do it. And I will be jealous of your financial success, but I wouldn't want to live your life. I wouldn't want to live your life.
Khalil, we like to end these off with 2 last questions.
Yep.
In 2 to 3 sentences, what is your best advice to the younger generation? give them a couple last guiding principles in 2 to 3 sentences that they can take with them for the rest of their lives.
Be yourself. Don't try to pretend to be somebody else to please other people. Don't wear masks. Don't make the mistake that I made most of my life, trying to wear masks to please other people. First of all, people are going to see right through it, and they're going to pick up on it. Authenticity, being yourself, is, I think, the most admirable goal. Be yourself. Be authentic.
I love it.
And Khalil, first off, incredible storyteller, by the way.
Thank you.
I could listen to you tell a story all
Thank
day
you.
long. So I wish this podcast was 8 hours. But
Thank you.
how do you want to be remembered when it's all said and done?
I would like to be the example of what the biggest fucking fuck up and loser on the planet can turn into once they find a tiny little speck of humility and turn their life and their will over to the care of God, and have my life be a testament to the power and grace of our living, loving Father.
I love it.
I love it.
Everybody watching right now, do us all a massive favor to like and subscribe for amazing content we've got coming with the most successful and the most fascinating business owners all over the entire world. And be sure, if you have not already done so, go get yourself a SunLife Organic, whether you're in Los Angeles, Austin, New York. Where else are you guys at?
Everywhere.
Right now? Everywhere.
We're going everywhere.
Come on.
We just signed a deal in Vegas with
Come on.
MGM. We're going into Aria.
Come on.
Well,
man.
Congratulations.
Let's go
Thank
all
you.
over,
Let's go.
man.
Yeah.
Guys, make sure, is it Khalil Rafati on Instagrams? What's the Instagram handle?
At Khalil Rafati. That's it.
Okay, we'll
Yep.
put it on the screen. Links in the description to go tap in with Khalil, as well as your book as well.
I Forgot to Die and Remembering to Live. I wrote 2 books. I Forgot to Die is the memoir. That's the bestseller. Remembering to Live is sort of kind of like what we went through here. It's a lot of stories about what I did to go from making minimum wage to becoming a multimillionaire, and how I did it. So, yeah, I Forgot to Die, Remembering to Live, at Khalil Rafati. And I don't know. And yeah, follow along if it pleases you, great. And if not, that's great too.
100%, guys. So we're going to put the links down to his socials as well as his book for you guys to get yourself a copy, as well as we're going to put the link down to our private entrepreneur community. Guys, we built the #1 community for business owners in the entire world, with over 4,500 of you guys getting direct access to multimillionaire and billionaire entrepreneurs on live calls every single week. It's the School of Mentors, the #1 community for business owners in the world. So we can't wait to see you on the inside. With that being said, we'll see you in the next episode.